Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 224 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish is one of those fish that definitely, well not definitely, you might have heard about this fish, and I feel like it's very fitting for this fish since it is Halloween. Happy Halloween everyone. And I thought, you know what we should do? We should do a spooky fish. Unfortunately, as you can see, I'm in a hotel room, so I cannot do it from my usual setup, but here we go. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is, bam, the Payara fish. Now the Payara fish, or scientific name Hydrolysis armatus, again that's Hydrolysis armatus, it is part of the family Cynodontidae, which is the family of vampire tetras or dogtooth terracins. I figured vampires, scary, very good topic for a Halloween type of fish. Unfortunately, we will not have many pictures, so I do encourage you to look for pictures about this fish, and I will go in later on this weekend actually, and I am going to put pictures of the fish over the top of this video. I can edit it, post it. It will be the first time I've ever done that, so it might be a little rough, but if you want to have better pictures of the fish, then I encourage you to come back and watch this video again in a couple of days, or stop the video now and wait until I repost this video and you get your pictures. But let's keep on let's keep on talking about this fish, and hopefully my phone doesn't fall again. Absolutely no promises if that's going to happen. So the vampire fish, or the Payara, is native to the Amazon River Basin. And it's pretty widespread. In fact, I believe there was a study that almost a third of all fish collected in one river in Venezuela was from this genus. Sorry, it has been a long week. Hydrolysis. So, you know, it can be very locally common. And it's can be a decently large fish. You know, pretty large. You're looking at, it averages around 89 centimeters, which is 2 feet 11 inches. And they can get bigger. Some of them have even gotten over to 100 centimeters, which is 3.3 feet. And they can reach almost 18 kilograms, which is 40 pounds. They average around 8.5 kilograms, which is around 18 pounds, 2 ounces. But it's a pretty solid fish. And, you know, there is quite a bit of power behind this fish, and it's very highly predatory. So it's a really interesting fish. But as you can probably tell if you remember from the very brief pictures, or if you look at the picture here, you can tell that the fish actually has a very silvery body, with a dark spot usually behind the opercle, and usually a dark spot on the adipose fin. It has this long squared off anal fin as well, with a real dark spot on the adipose fin as well. And in the in Hydrolysis armatus, it wasn't a characteristic that I saw described, but I noticed in a lot of the pictures they had a very sloped in forehead where it comes down pretty hard and creates this very prevalent, prominent forehead. So pretty neat. It does have a dusky a caudal fin, and not just caudal fin, even the anal fin. And if you notice in the pictures, I'm sorry I'm doing this for people who are watching this before the weekend, but the caudal fin and the anal fin will actually very often have this very thin white pinstripe on the edge, which can be pretty prominent and very noticeable. It's not always there, but it can be pretty noticeable. But the most obvious part of this is its heavily upturned mouth. If you look, it's a very upturned mouth and very prominent eyes. So as you can see here, you can have the very upturned mouth, those very large eyes, and with that large mouth and those large eyes, you can tell that it's a predator. Well, obviously, from a name like vampire fish, you can expect fangs. It has extremely prevalent fangs, and they are obviously where it got its name. Now the fangs are, like I said, they're extremely stout. And in this species, they can reach up to 5 centimeters, which is 2 inches long, which a lot of people don't think is actually that long, but that's a lot longer than people think. I mean, a lot of people, they use their second knuckle to their first knuckle. That's about an inch. It's a fairly deal. So you're talking about 2 of those, but you're also talking about a tooth that might be about the size of some people's pinky. Not mine. I have very much sausage fingers and very, fat, blunt fingers. But you're talking about a very thick fang in a fish that, which usually, fish that are piscivorous, especially freshwater fish, primarily have a lot of tiny like very tiny pin-like teeth to hold those fish. These fish are still holding those fish, but they're using those very thick fang to stab into the fish. And if you look at the picture, or if you go back and or you look at the picture that's about to pop up, you can see that the fangs actually have sockets that they go into in their upper jaw, because they have to have that much room to basically close their mouth. Otherwise, they couldn't do it. Now, obviously, they could have developed the some mammals have, where they have like the tooths are on the outside of the upper mouth, but that actually is a cause for very easy to scratch, could cause infections and things like that. It's always good to have all your stuff internal. But with the name like that, you can imagine that's why it's got so many nicknames. Saber-toothed barracuda, even though it's freshwater. Vampire fish, one of my favorite. Vampire tetras. Vampire tetra might actually be the closest good common name I could imagine, because it is part of the Charasin family, which the Charasin is the tetras. And there are a lot of fish that actually are called the dog tooth, which meaning they have pretty prevalent incisors and fangs. I chose this one because it's one of the largest ones that you can do. Some other interesting facts: they can actually vibrate their swim bladder in distress. That's actually becoming more and more common across the fish world, or scientists are discovering that it's actually fairly common throughout the fish world. It's depending on the level. But they're actually very popular as a recreational fishery. People love fishing for this fish. And in fact, there are numerous pictures, especially if you go online. I don't like to show people's face without their. You can find a lot of people that are holding their catches. And by the way, you can see right here, there's that white sort of pinstripe here going across. And obviously these very, very long stripe. When they get to this size, the dark spot behind the opercle really becomes like a dark stripe. But stay up, please. There we go. So you have to be pretty careful. People love fishing with them, and because they're very thick bodied, they're very muscular, as many predatory fish are. And they are predatory. Do not forget that. And they primarily eat fish that are smaller than themselves. I know that sounds like a caveat, but we've talked about so many fish that are like, they can eat up to 2/3 of their body length. This fish kind of goes the other way. It's using those fangs to hold pretty small fish. There was a study done that the fish that were found inside of the fish, inside of the stomach contents, were actually only 15 to 50% of this fish's length. You know, usually we're talking about, oh, they found some that are 70% of the length and things like that. No, this fish is kind of going after a lot of smaller fish. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just doing what it can. It's probably more of an ambush predator, considering that they're predominantly found in larger rivers with a little more turbidity and usually quicker flowing, meaning they're probably sitting in ambush spots and just darting out to catch fish. They are also, unfortunately, relatively popular in the aquarium trade. Many people don't know how to take care of them, super unfortunately, and I don't recommend them. They are very expensive to purchase, and they're actually very expensive to keep, mainly because they really are a predatory fish, and you have to basically supply them a steady supply of decently sized fish for them to eat. Otherwise, they will starve to death. Now, for the interesting fact we're going to end the video on is kind of on the name, the Payara. And it's super, super important. It's the problem with common names and why, you know, we've talked about common names in the past. There are, in this genus Hydrolysis, there are only 4 species, and all of them are called Payara. And there's a few species in a different genus that are also called Payara, or vampire fish. They're all part of the dogtooth tracins, the Cynodontidae, or vampire tetras. So it's obvious that there could be some confusion, but there's only 4 species in the Hydrolysis. And kind of the interesting fact, up until 1999, there were actually only 2 species. This was the second species that was described. The first species that was described was Hydrolysis Scombroides, which was actually the very first picture that I showed in this video, was actually Scombroides. Payara still, but Scombroides was actually a much smaller one. They just had a prettier picture. And they look very similar. And there's been many documentations of Scombroides being, oh, it's 2 feet long, 3 feet long, but those are very, very much likely this Payara species, the Armoratus. And then the other 2 species were described in 1999, which still fascinates me, you know, to this day. I love just going on and being like, oh, there were species discovered when in my lifetime, you know, and that's, you know, I'm definitely not as young as I used to be, but I don't think I'm that old. But finding out that there have been so many fish species discovered in my lifetime lets me look to the future and hope that my daughter will be able to experience the joy of having a new fish species being discovered. So yeah, a little bit of nostalgia there, but regardless, you can also take the interesting fact about the fact that there's 4 separate species and they're all called Payara, which is another reason why you should be careful in the aquarium trade. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Happy Halloween to everyone. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you do. I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Looking forward to the future of this channel. I do have some plans for the future that I do think everyone is going to love. It's going to be a very inconsistent part of the channel, but I do think people are going to really enjoy it. More on that later, but thank you guys so much again. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and peace.